Oh, hey there everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and like this video. This is the second video in a three-part series on my channel about flawless makeup for beginners and kind of stripping it down to the basics of foundation, the adding definition back in to your face, and the eyes, and finishing the product, which is your face. Now I have my base on already, and as you can see, my foundation, like I mentioned in the previous video, I had it blend down to about here, but I have a lot of redness in my neck, so I tend to use bronzer kind of all the way down my neck and in other areas for definition. We'll get into all of that in a moment. I'm going to go over the products that you are going to need for this video if your foundation is already done. And if your foundation is not already done, make sure you go back and check part 1 of this series, which is Flawless Foundation for Beginners. So when you're about to get started on the, we'll call it the middle part of your face, even though you're doing the whole part of your face, just to clear that up, you're going to want to make sure you have your translucent powder again, a highlighter, a bronzer, and if you want to save money on buying all that individually, you can get a palette. This is by Morphe, and it is the 8M, so Face Palette 8M Medium Vibes. And it does have a brightener, a bronzer, another bronzer, a contour, 2 blushes, and 2 highlights. For contour, I could use the contour that is in that little palette there. I also have a Too Faced Cocoa Contour Palette. One other item you're going to want is a beauty blender. You can use the same one from doing your foundation. I usually use one that is already dry because I don't wet the one that I'm going to be using powder on, and this is what this one is for. It'll be for using powder to kind of define certain areas of the face. Aside from the products I just mentioned and the one beauty blender, dry, you are also going to need some brushes for this. Unfortunately, you can't apply these products with your hands if you're using powder products to do this, which currently is my preference. If you have liquid blush or contour, you can definitely use your fingers to blend some of that out, or your beauty blender again is what I would use if I was using any sort of liquid definer. So first things you're going to want is a big fluffy brush. This is the biggest one I have at the moment, and I use this to bronze basically my entire face, especially down my neck to kind of get rid of some of that redness. Cheek area, whole forehead, sometimes I go right across the bridge of my nose. I just like to be a little bit more bronzy. You can take bronzer as far as you want to take it, or as minimally as you want to take it. The next brush I have is one for blush application, and we'll get into the blush application when we get to that portion. This one's just a slightly dense round topped brush. This one is the Morphe E48. Now what you're going to want is some sort of angled brush like so. This has a slight angle on it. It's kind of tapered, and this is what I use for contour. So this is what I use under my jawline to do contour in my cheeks and around my hairline, sides of my nose, all the places we're going to get into, but you're going to want an angled brush that is slightly dense and slightly tapered. I have a similar angled brush for highlight just because this is what I prefer to put my highlight on with. You could use a fan brush, you could use your fingers, but I really like another angled brush to kind of put my highlight on where it needs to go. To begin, I always start with the bronzer, the full application, and this is the Morphe Glamour Bronze Face and Body Bronzer in the color Originator, and it comes in a fairly big pan. Like, this is my brush, this is the pan. I really like it. It's a fairly good color for me. You can get many palettes that come with your bronzer, your contour, your highlight, and your blush, and you can get those palettes designated to a certain skin tone, so whether that's fair, light, medium, dark, you pick what's best for you. So I'm going to take my big fluffy brush and my bronzer, and I'm going to start by bronzing in my cheek areas first, followed by my forehead, and then if I decide to, that's when I take it across my face, and lastly I focus on my neck and jawline. I do like to be bronzed everywhere. So I usually do take it across the center of my face. Because you're adding in blush and contour and highlight, you can tone down the bronzer that way, or you can go back in with your beauty blender that you just used for your foundation and tone out any bronzer that looks like it might be a little too much. And you just want to make sure that you've bronzed right into your hairline so you don't have any harsh foundation areas, especially if you're bronzing your whole face. Once the bronzer is done, and that is literally all I do for bronzing, is I just bronze my entire face. I try not to go overboard. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I look like an Oompa Loompa, but that is not the goal. Next, I'm going to do a little bit of contouring. So I'm going to go in actually with the Morphe 8M Medium Vibes palette and use the contour shade in there. And I will just show you where I take contour. So again, on that tapered brush that's not super dense, I'm just going to dip it all in the contour, make sure it's nice and covered, tap it off a couple times, and where I start always is kind of the corner where your ear meets your face down, and you can kind of go towards where that your dimple or your smile lines kind of start. Another way to really find your contour lines is slightly smile when you're applying it, and you will see where you want that shadow to go. I don't worry too much if anything looks too harsh at this point, because I can go back in with my beauty blender if I need to, or diffuse it even more. So now what I do, because I don't have a jawline, is I take that same contour color, tap it off, so not too much, and I start right behind my jaw and come around and down, and that just gives some definition here. It makes it look like you have a jawline, very strong one, I must add, without it looking too harsh. And I do that every time I do my makeup. I like to have that definition there. Now, just on the edge of that same brush, what I like to do is just slightly tap that in there, tap it off, and I go right under my bottom lip with a little bit more contour. And later on, that's just gonna help kind of give some definition to your lip chin area. We're also going to add some highlights to those areas too. So you're really gonna get that contrast of contour versus highlight. Then with that same brush, I usually just use the side, like the top side of one. You can use the whole brush, it doesn't matter. What I do is tap it in there, tap it off, and I start in the center of my hairline and work my way down to where I started that contour line on the side of my face. Just get it on there. Don't worry about anything if you have some darker spots, because you're gonna diffuse it out. And you're gonna go right down to where you started the contour in the cheek. Basically, you're just going for nice and blended, but still definition. And I know that sounds weird because you're basically blending out the definition, but honestly, when you look at it on a photo or on camera, like video, you're going to see just that shadow work, bringing out different aspects of your face. You're not getting rid of it all, and it's not like you did all this work to put in some contour and it's gone. Another place that I will take contour, and again, using the top side of my brush that I put all of my contour on with, I just tap it a couple times, tap it off, and go right from the corner of your eyebrow down the side of your nose. And sometimes I even do a little bit on the underside of the nose. Now, remember when I said that you were going to use that dry beauty blender with the translucent powder again? This is where you use it, and this is what I go into. So I go into my powder, just like so. And underneath that line where I started that contour by the ear, I just apply powder right down to my chin. This will just slightly brighten up those areas underneath the contour, which is going to give you that kind of chiselly defined look. And I don't let it sit on there for too long. Now, another place that I will do some powder is over my chin, right? Because we contoured under the lip. So brighten up the chin. You want to brighten up anything that you're bringing forward, and anything you're sinking in you want to contour. So then I'll take a little bit down the center of my nose, and we will leave that there for just a second. You can leave it on as long as you want. It's translucent powder. I just do find, even though it's translucent powder, it does lighten quite a bit. So I'm going to go in with that bronzer brush that I used in the very beginning to apply the bronzer and just dust off anywhere that I put that translucent powder, just to create some highlights under the contour lines. I don't do much with the contour on the nose because highlight kind of, I wouldn't say fixes it, but highlight defines it even more. Then what I do is I go in and do my blush followed by my highlight, and then I will go back in with my blush brush again, and I will explain why. So with this, I am going in with the Morphe 8M blush and, well, face palette is what it is. And I go in actually with both blushes. This one is a bit of a shimmer and this one is like a peachy matte. I use both. So I'll tap into both like 4 times, tap off the excess, then go in with the blush. So 1, 2, 3, 4, got some on there, tap it off, slightly smile, and I just run that right above that contour line. And I like blush. So what I like to do is go in again, tap it off, slightly smile, and you get to kind of see where you're going to want that blush. Tap, go in again, and then I even take it up in this like C motion almost, up the side of my temple, and that just kind of adds even more definition to my face. So you can see now, compared to this side, that we have that color back in our face, because we really, with the foundation, took everything out of our face, and this is us putting it back in. You can just go to town with the blush as much as you want. What is also nice about the blush is it blends out any harshness on the top of that contour line and leaves you with nice, colorful cheeks. A little bit on the end of my nose, and that's about it. Just adding a little bit of color back in everywhere. And I can see now I used a little too much on my chin, so I just go back in with that bronzer brush. The bronzer brush will save you the whole time you're doing this, because it is what is underneath everything you're putting on top. Same thing with any heavy contour at the top. You can use that brush and blend it out a little bit more if you want. I feel like this look is just getting weirder and weirder because you're not going to see the final product. You'll see the final product of all these techniques when I film the 3rd installment, which will be the brows, the eyes, the lips, etc. Now for highlight. I love a good highlight. You don't have to use highlight. If you're happy with this, then stop here. I like using highlight because I like to glow for the gods. And again, this palette came with 2 different highlights, a pinkier one and a more goldy champagne-y color. I like the champagne one. I go in with that tapered brush again, the other one I showed you, the other tapered brush, and I just apply that right above the blush line on the top of the cheek, just under the outside corner of the eye. Not coming too far onto the cheek or you will look just shiny. I like to be beaming a little bit. And highlight you can put anywhere. You can put it on your cheeks, you can put it on top of your lips, you can put it on your brow bone, you can put it down your nose. I do cheeks, nose, Cupid's bow. And I'll show you what I meant by going back in with the blush brush in just a second. Now you have that highlight sitting on top of the contour, the blush, and the highlight, and you can really tell that the highlight's sitting there. So what I do, I go back in with my blush brush and I just make that slight smile, and I just do those circular motions right against the bottom of that highlight, and it blends it in so you're not left with a hard line on top of your blush. And you're not going back in with any more blush, you're just diffusing the current blush on your face out a little bit more. Another place I will take highlight, because I like to make sure that my nose, the monstrosity that it is, looks a little slender. So I'll go in with the same highlight I used everywhere on a pencil brush. This is the Morphe M431. So I'll go in, tap it off, and I will just draw a line right from center brow all the way down to just above the tip of the nose. And you can do that a couple times depending on how glowy you want to be. And then I tap it off, add a little bit to the end of my nose, where we also put some blush. And you're just gonna get a little bit of highlight on the nose. If you go too high, just rub it out. You can use your beauty blender for this as well if you want to get rid of some of that. I still have beauty blender with some powder on it, so I'm just going to go in there, brush it away, and then my highlight hasn't gone as high. The final place that I'm going to put a little bit of highlight, and this is just to make your lips pop a little bit once you apply your lip product, is right here on the Cupid's bow, not too far out and not too far up. And this is just going to define that top lip a little bit, even once you put lipstick on. And remember, we took definition out, we created a shadow underneath our lips. So now we're creating a highlight to bring the top lip forward, the bottom lip looks like it has a shadow underneath it, creating that kind of pout that lots of people want. Well friends, I know that this is looking less and less crazy in this series because now I've added definition and color back to my face, but this is where we stop for this video. We have gone over bronzing, contour, highlight, cutting bronzer, and just some little tips and tricks that I use on my face. Everybody's face is different, and to be perfectly honest, I don't think I could create this same look on your face because you know your face best. I can teach and give technique, but I know exactly how my face looks and works, and it's a lot easier to learn how to apply this on your face on your own, so that is why I'm creating these videos. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye. This is where I'll leave you. Everything's done now. The next video in this series of flawless makeup for beginners is going to be the brows, the eyes, the lips, and that will wrap up the look. I will be talking about a couple different eye looks in the video because I am going to be going a little bit more glam with my eye look, but I will explain how to get just that natural look. And obviously everything I'm doing, you can tone it back to whatever you want if you want that no makeup look. My preference is just being more done up, more full coverage, more glam. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're enjoying this trilogy of videos, please give this video a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below there somewhere. And make sure you tune in for the final installment of Flawless Makeup for Beginners. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!